For oral answer, question number 1, in the name of David Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance. What reports has he received showing progress on building a growing economy, supporting more jobs and higher wages for New Zealand families?
Mr. Speaker,
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, Statistics New Zealand this morning released the GDP data for the quarter to March 2015. A reduction in dairy production and reduced output from the oil and gas industry contributed to a low quarterly growth figure of 0.2%, around the lower end of market expectations. Agricultural output was influenced by drought conditions. This was offset by increased output in business services, retail, trade, accommodation and transport and warehousing. Economic fundamentals remain sound, and the outlook remains positive for more jobs and higher wages. We would expect the economy remains on track to average 2.5% to 3% growth, moderate sustained growth, delivering moderate increases in income for New Zealanders.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, David Bennett.
How does New Zealand's economic growth in the year to March compare with growth in other developed economies?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, New Zealand continues to perform relatively well compared to other developed economies, although GDP is just one measure of economic progress. Increases in incomes and growth in jobs are just as important. At 2.6% growth rate in the 12 months to March, New Zealand's in the top third of the OECD, a bit higher than Australia and the United Kingdom, about the same as the US, and certainly well above the euro area.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, David Bennett.
What is the outlook for economic growth over the next 3 to 4 years?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the most recent outlook published has been that of the Reserve Bank, which indicates growth of just around 3% over the next 3 years, taking into account lower dairy prices for longer, but also including lower interest rates and lower exchange rate, which will help those parts of the economy that are under pressure.
Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is he aware that 21% of the weak growth in the economy this quarter came from retail spending, and that 80% of that was from Christchurch and Auckland? And does he really think that a recovery from a natural disaster and spending based on a housing bubble is a sustainable economic strategy?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's not the case, although the Labor Party do insist on saying that the people digging up the water pipes, laying new roads and building houses in Christchurch are somehow not doing real work. Not real work, perhaps because it's not sitting around analysing and measuring. So, Mr. Speaker, all those things are contributing to economic growth. We welcome the contribution of hard-working New Zealanders, and we don't believe that people in Christchurch aren't doing real work.
Order. Yeah. Supplementary question, David Bennett.
What are some of the risks to the economic outlook, and what steps is the government taking to manage those risks?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's a great number of risks that we can't control, such as those that affect the New Zealand economy that come from the rest of the world. However, in New Zealand, probably the single biggest risk at the moment to sustainable moderate growth is the fast rising housing market, and we welcome the draft report of the Productivity Commission yesterday, which is going to help central government and local government deepen its understanding of the complex set of issues around faster land development, faster growth in infrastructure, and therefore a more responsive housing market.
Question number 2, Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr.